My name is Odessa Franklin, and I'm 71 years old. 2 months ago, my only son and his wife put me in a nursing home against my will, took control of my money, and tried to steal everything I'd worked my whole life to build. They thought I was too old and confused to fight back. They thought I would just sit in that nursing home quietly and eventually die, leaving them free to take everything. They were wrong. Let me tell you about the day I escaped from Shady Pines nursing home. About the moment I walked through my son's front door, the door to the house I'd bought and paid for, and watched their faces turn white with shock and fear. If this story already has you hooked, subscribe to our channel right now and hit that notification bell. We share the most powerful, emotional grandmother stories every single week. And drop a comment telling us where you're watching from: USA, UK, Canada, Jamaica. We want to know our global family is with us. Now, let me take you to that beautiful October morning when everything changed. It was 6:30 a.m. I'd been planning my escape for 3 weeks, watching the nurses' schedules, learning the security codes, making friends with other residents who could help me. The night nurse, a kind woman named Beatrice, was on duty. I told her about my situation, about how my son Woodrow and his wife Inez had forced me into Shady Pines by lying to a judge, claiming I had dementia when I was perfectly fine. "Mrs. Franklin," Beatrice had said when I told her my story, "if what you're saying is true, that's elder abuse. That's illegal." "I know it is, but I need to get out of here first. I need to get back to my house and stop them from selling it." Beatrice had thought about it for a long time. Then she'd said, "I can't officially help you escape. I could lose my job, but I might forget to lock the side door during my morning rounds, and I might not notice if a resident happened to walk out that door around 6:30 a.m. when I'm busy with medication distribution." That morning, true to her word, Beatrice forgot to lock the side door. I walked out of Shady Pines wearing the clothes I'd been wearing the day Woodrow brought me there, my best Sunday dress and my comfortable walking shoes. I walked 3 blocks to a bus stop, used the emergency cash I'd hidden in my dress lining to buy a ticket, and 90 minutes later, I was standing on the sidewalk in front of my house, the house I'd lived in for 43 years, the house my late husband and I had bought when Woodrow was just a baby. The house that Woodrow and Inez were trying to steal from me. I walked up to the front door and used the key I'd kept hidden in my shoe. The lock had been changed, but I'd expected that. So I walked around to the back door, the one that opened to the kitchen. That lock hadn't been changed. Woodrow and Inez had always been careless about the back door. I unlocked it and stepped into my kitchen. My kitchen. The kitchen where I'd cooked thousands of meals for my family. The kitchen where I'd taught Woodrow how to make his grandmother's peach cobbler when he was 10 years old. The kitchen was different now. Inez had redecorated. New curtains, new dishes in the cabinets, like she already owned the place. I heard voices from upstairs, Woodrow and Inez talking, getting ready for their day. I walked through the living room and stood at the bottom of the stairs. Then I called out in a loud, clear voice, "Woodrow Franklin, Inez Franklin, get down here right now." The voices upstairs stopped. Silence, then footsteps, fast, panicked footsteps. Woodrow appeared at the top of the stairs first. He was 49 years old, wearing his bathrobe, holding a coffee cup. When he saw me standing there, the cup fell from his hand and shattered on the stairs. "Mama," his voice came out as a whisper, but you're supposed to be." "In the nursing home," I finished for him. "Yes, I was, but I left, walked right out the front door, and now I'm back, in MY house, the house you're trying to steal from me." Inez appeared behind Woodrow. She was 45, wearing expensive silk pajamas, probably bought with my money. Her face went from sleepy to terrified in an instant. "How did you get out?" she demanded. "How did you get here?" "Does it matter? I'm here now, and we need to have a conversation about what you two have done to me." Woodrow came down the stairs slowly, stepping over the broken coffee cup. "Mama, you're confused. We didn't do anything to you. We put you in Shady Pines because you needed care, because you were getting forgetful and unsafe living alone." I'm not confused, Woodrow, and I'm not forgetful. I remember everything. Every lie you told, every paper you forged, every crime you committed. Inez's eyes narrowed. You're delusional. We're calling the nursing home right now to come get you. Go ahead and call them. And while you're at it, I'll call the police and tell them how you had me declared mentally incompetent based on lies. How you used a corrupt doctor to sign papers saying I had dementia when I don't. How you got power of attorney over me illegally so you could access my bank accounts. Woodrow's face went pale. Mama, that's not. We didn't. Yes, you did, and I can prove it. Because while I was locked up in that nursing home, I wasn't just sitting around feeling sorry for myself. I was making phone calls, hearing lawyers, gathering evidence. And now I'm back and I'm going to take back everything you stole from me. I pulled out a folder from my large purse, a folder full of legal documents. These are court papers. I filed a petition to have the competency ruling overturned. I've provided evidence that Dr. Ezekiel Moss, the doctor who declared me incompetent, is your poker buddy, Woodrow, that you paid him $5,000 to write a false diagnosis. I have bank records showing the payment. I have witnesses who will testify that I'm perfectly mentally sound. And I have a very angry judge who doesn't like it when people abuse the legal system to commit elder abuse. I watched the color drain from both their faces, watched them realize that their plan wasn't working out the way they'd expected. There's a hearing tomorrow at 2 p.m., I continued. The judge will review all my evidence, and if he finds, and he will, that you had me illegally declared incompetent, he'll reverse the ruling. My power of attorney will be revoked. My access to my own money will be restored. And you too will face criminal charges for fraud and elder abuse. Woodrow sank down onto the stairs, his head in his hands. Mama, please, we can work this out. We didn't mean to hurt you. We needed money, and you have so much just sitting there. So you decided to lock me away and steal it. My voice was cold. Your own mother, the woman who raised you, fed you, put you through college, helped you buy your first car, gave you money for your wedding. Inez stepped forward, her face hard. You're making this into something it's not. We were trying to help you. You're old, Odessa. You need care. And yes, we needed to access your accounts to pay for that care. Shady Pines costs $4,000 a month. My bank records show you've withdrawn over $200,000 from my accounts in the past 2 months. Where did the other money go, Inez? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. I already knew. I have copies of all my bank statements, I said. I know about the luxury vacation to Hawaii. I know about the new car you bought, the Mercedes in the driveway. I know about the credit card debt you paid off. All with my money. All while I was locked in a nursing home being fed cafeteria food and sleeping in a room with peeling paint. We were going to pay you back, Woodrow said weakly. When? After I died. Because that's what you were hopping for, wasn't it? That I'd die in that nursing home before anyone found out what you'd done. The look on Woodrow's face told me I was right. My own son had been waiting for me to die. For a moment, the hurt was so deep I couldn't speak. This was my baby, the child I'd carried for 9 months, the boy I'd rocked to sleep, the young man I'd helped through college, the son I'd loved more than anything. And he'd betrayed me in the worst possible way. Get out, I said quietly. What? Inez asked. Get out of MY House, both of you. This is MY House. My name is on the deed. You have no right to be here. You can't throw us out, Inez protested. We have power of attorney. We're your legal guardians. Not for long. And even if you were, that doesn't give you the right to live in my house without my permission. You have 1 hour to pack your things and leave. If you're not gone by then, I'm calling the police and having you arrested for trespassing. Woodrow stood up, anger replacing shock on his face. You're making a big mistake, Mama. A very big mistake. We can make your life very difficult. You already have. You locked me in a nursing home and tried to steal everything I own. What else can you do to me? We can fight you in court, Inez said coldly. We can drag this out for years. We can make it so expensive that you'll run out of money paying lawyers. And in the meantime, you'll end up right back in Shady Pines because you can't take care of yourself. I can take care of myself just fine. And as for court battles, bring it on. I've got a very good lawyer, and I've got truth on my side. Can you say the same?" They glared at me, but they knew I had them cornered. They couldn't stay in my house against my will, and if they tried, I really would call the police. "Fine," Woodrow finally said. "We'll leave. But Mama, you're going to regret this. When the judge hears our side of the story, when he hears about all your confusion and memory problems." "I don't have memory problems," I shouted. "I never did. That was a lie you told so you could steal from me. And if you keep lying, I'll make sure the judge throws the book at you." They went upstairs to pack. I stood in my living room, and tried to stop shaking. I'd done it. I'd escaped the nursing home. I'd confronted them. I'd taken my first steps toward getting my life back. But this was just the beginning. I knew Woodrow and Inez wouldn't give up easily. They'd fight me in court. They'd try to prove I was incompetent. They'd do everything they could to keep control of my money and my life. And I had to be ready for that fight. While they packed upstairs, I called my lawyer, a wonderful woman named Lucille Harper who specialized in elder law. "Lucille, it's Odessa. I escaped. I'm back at my house." "Odessa, oh thank God, I was so worried about you. Are you safe?" "I'm safe. Woodrow and Inez are here, but they're packing. They'll be gone soon. But Lucille, I need to know, are we ready for tomorrow's hearing?" "We're ready. I have everything we need. The medical expert who'll testify that you don't have dementia. The bank records showing the suspicious withdrawals. The witness statements from your friends confirming you're mentally sharp. And I have the evidence about Dr. Moss taking money from Woodrow to write a false diagnosis." "Good, because they're going to fight dirty. They already threatened to drag this out in court for years." "Let them try. Odessa, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen hundreds of cases like yours, adult children trying to steal from elderly parents. And I've never lost a case where the evidence was this clear. You're going to win." I hoped she was right. After we hung up, I walked through my house, room by room, seeing all the changes Woodrow and Inez had made, the furniture they'd moved, the pictures they'd taken down, pictures of me and my late husband, replaced with pictures of them. In the dining room, I found something that made my blood boil: real estate papers, papers to sell my house. They'd already contacted a realtor, already set a price. $350,000 for the house I'd lived in for 43 years. They weren't just trying to control my money. They were trying to sell my home right out from under me. I took photos of the papers with my phone and sent them to Lucille. More evidence. An hour later, Woodrow and Inez came downstairs with suitcases. "We're leaving," Woodrow said coldly. "But this isn't over, Mama, not by a long shot." "Where will you go?" I asked, not because I cared, but because I was curious. "We have friends," Inez said. "Friends who will let us stay with them. Friends who know the truth about how difficult you are." "The truth," I repeated. "You wouldn't know the truth if it hit you in the face." They walked out without saying goodbye, slammed the door behind them. And I was alone in my house, finally. I should have felt victorious, relieved, happy. Instead, I felt heartbroken, because my son, my only child, had just walked out of my life and I didn't know if he'd ever come back. I sat down in my favorite chair, the one Woodrow and Inez hadn't moved because it was old and worn, and I cried. For the son I'd lost, for the family that was broken, for the trust that had been shattered. But I didn't cry for long, because I had work to do. I had to prepare for tomorrow's court hearing. I had to make sure I won. And after I won, I had to figure out what came next. That night, I slept in my own bed for the first time in 2 months. It felt wonderful, but it also felt lonely. The next morning, I got up early, put on my best dress, and prepared for court. Lucille picked me up at 1 p.m. "You ready for this?" she asked. "As ready as I'll ever be." We drove to the courthouse. When we arrived, I saw Woodrow and Inez waiting outside with their lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. "That's Bartholomew Winters," Lucille whispered. "He's good, expensive. They must have paid him a fortune to take this case." "With my money, probably," I muttered. We went inside. The hearing was in a small courtroom with just the judge, the lawyers, and a few witnesses. The judge was a black woman in her 60s named Judge Ophelia Grant. She had a reputation for being fair but tough. She didn't tolerate nonsense in her courtroom. "Let's begin," Judge Grant said. "This is a petition to overturn a competency ruling made 2 months ago. Mrs. Odessa Franklin is requesting that the court reverse its finding that she lacks mental capacity to manage her own affairs. Mrs. Franklin, your lawyer may proceed." Lucille stood up. "Your Honor, this case is about elder abuse. Pure and simple. Mrs. Franklin is a sharp, intelligent, capable woman who was declared incompetent based on lies and false medical evidence. Her son and daughter-in-law manipulated the system to gain control of her finances, and they've stolen over $200,000 from her in just 2 months. Woodrow's lawyer, Bartholomew, objected. "Your Honor, that's inflammatory and unproven. My clients have committed no crimes. They were simply caring for an elderly mother who could no longer care for herself." "We'll see about that," Judge Grant said dryly. "Proceed, Ms. Harper." For the next hour, Lucille presented our case. She called Dr. Nadine Chen, a geriatric psychiatrist who'd examined me and confirmed I had no signs of dementia or mental impairment. She presented the bank records showing the suspicious withdrawals, Hawaii vacation, new car, credit card payments. She showed the evidence that Dr. Moss had been paid to write a false diagnosis. Then it was Bartholomew's turn. He called Woodrow to the stand. "Mr. Franklin, tell the court why you felt it necessary to have your mother declared incompetent." Woodrow looked sincere, concerned, like a devoted son. "Your Honor, my mother was getting very forgetful. She'd leave the stove on, forget to pay bills, get confused about dates and times. I was worried she'd hurt herself or burn the house down. I thought the nursing home was the safest place for her." "And the money you withdrew from her accounts," Bartholomew prompted. "That was for her care. Nursing homes are expensive. And yes, Inez and I used some of the money for ourselves, but only because Mama had always said she wanted us to be comfortable. She'd always been generous with us." It was all lies, every word, but Woodrow delivered it convincingly. Then Lucille cross-examined him. "Mr. Franklin, you say your mother was forgetful. Can you give specific examples?" Woodrow hesitated. "Well, she'd forget conversations we'd had, forget where she'd put things." "Doesn't everyone forget things sometimes? That doesn't mean they have dementia." "It was more than that." "Was it? Because I have statements from 3 of your mother's friends who saw her regularly. They say she was sharp as a tack, never confused, always remembered everything. Were they lying?" They might not have seen the symptoms I saw. Or you might be exaggerating to justify what you did." Lucille pulled out a document. "This is a bank statement showing you paid Dr. Ezekiel Moss $5,000 3 days before he wrote the competency evaluation. Care to explain that?" Woodrow's face went red. "Dr. Moss is an old friend I owed him money from a personal loan." "Really? Do you have documentation of this loan, a written agreement, payment schedule?" "It was informal, between friends." "How convenient." Lucille wasn't buying it. Neither was the judge from the look on her face. After 2 hours of testimony, Judge Grant called a recess. "I need to review all this evidence," she said. "We'll reconvene in 1 hour with my decision." That hour was the longest of my life. I sat in the courthouse hallway with Lucille, watching Woodrow and Inez whisper with their lawyer. Finally, we were called back in. Judge Grant looked stern as she spoke. "I've reviewed all the evidence in this case, and I have to say, I'm appalled. This is one of the most clear-cut cases of elder abuse I've seen in years." Woodrow and Inez's faces went pale. "The medical evidence is clear. Mrs. Franklin does not have dementia. The financial evidence shows systematic theft, and the payment to Dr. Moss strongly suggests fraud. Therefore, I am overturning the competency ruling. Mrs. Franklin is mentally capable of managing her own affairs. The power of attorney is revoked immediately, and I'm referring this case to the district attorney's office for potential criminal prosecution." I felt tears of relief streaming down my face. I'd won. I'd actually won. But Judge Grant wasn't finished. Furthermore, I'm ordering Mr. Franklin and Mrs. Inez Franklin to return all funds withdrawn from Mrs. Franklin's accounts within 30 days. If they fail to do so, I'll hold them in contempt of court. Woodrow stood up. Your Honor, we don't have that money anymore. We spent it. Then you'd better figure out how to get it back. Sell your car. Take out loans. I don't care. But Mrs. Franklin is entitled to every penny you stole from her. It was perfect, better than I'd hoped for. After the hearing, Woodrow and Inez rushed out of the courthouse without looking at me. But as they left, Inez turned back and shouted, "This isn't over, Odessa. You'll regret this. You'll regret making enemies of us." I just smiled. I don't make enemies, Inez. I just stop tolerating people who treat me like garbage. That night, I celebrated with Lucille. We went to a nice restaurant, and I paid for everything with my own money I had access to again. What's next? Lucille asked. Next, I make sure they never try anything like this again. I'm changing my will, setting up a trust, making sure that if anything happens to me, Woodrow can't touch a penny, and I'm going to rebuild my life on my own terms. But as I said those words, I had no idea what was really coming. Because while I was celebrating my victory, Woodrow and Inez were planning something that would make their first scheme look like child's play. And when I found out what they were planning, I realized the war wasn't over. It was just beginning. If you're loving Odessa's story, we need you to do something right now. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on all notifications. This story is about to get wild. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And do you think Odessa should forgive her son? We read every comment. The week after the court hearing was wonderful. I had my freedom back. I had my money back. I had my house back. Every morning, I woke up in my own bed, made coffee in my own kitchen, and felt grateful to be home. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was coming. Inez's words haunted me. This isn't over, Odessa. You'll regret this. I was right to be worried. 3 days after the hearing, I got a visit from someone unexpected. My neighbor, Myrtle Washington. She was 82 years old and had lived next door to me for 30 years. She knew everything that happened on our street. Odessa, she said when I opened the door, we need to talk. Can I come in? Of course, what's wrong? We sat in my living room, and Myrtle looked nervous. I don't want to upset you, but I thought you should know. I saw Woodrow and Inez yesterday. They were parked down the street, watching your house. My stomach dropped. Are you sure it was them? I'm sure. I recognized Woodrow's car, that new Mercedes. They sat there for almost an hour just watching. And Odessa, they weren't alone. There was another man with them, someone I didn't recognize. What did he look like? White man, maybe 50 years old, wearing a suit. He had papers with him, looked like documents or photos. They were showing him something and pointing at your house. I felt cold. Did you hear anything they said? No, I was too far away, but Odessa, it looked suspicious, like they were planning something. After Myrtle left, I called Lucille immediately. They're not giving up, I told her. They're watching my house, planning something. Do you want me to file for a restraining order? Lucille asked. Not yet. I want to know what they're planning first. Can you recommend a private investigator? Someone who can follow them, find out what they're up to. I know someone perfect. Her name is Esther Monroe. She's expensive but worth every penny. Let me give her your number. That afternoon, Esther Monroe came to my house. She was a black woman in her 50s, sharp-eyed and professional. Mrs. Franklin, Ms. Harper told me about your situation. I specialize in cases like yours, elder abuse, financial exploitation. What exactly do you need from me? I need to know what my son and daughter-in-law are planning. They're watching my house, meeting with strange men, and I have a feeling it's something bad. I can do that. I'll start surveillance today. Follow them, see who they meet with, document everything. It'll cost you $1,000 a day plus expenses. It was expensive, but I didn't care. I needed to know what was coming. Esther started her surveillance immediately. And what she discovered over the next 2 weeks was worse than I could have imagined. Esther came to my house 14 days later with a thick folder of photos, recordings, and notes. Odessa, you were right to be worried. Your son and daughter-in-law are planning something major, and it's bad. She spread photos across my kitchen table, pictures of Woodrow and Inez meeting with various people, a real estate lawyer, a banker, a man who turned out to be a building inspector, and someone else, someone I recognized from the nursing home. That's Clarence Dunn, I said, pointing to one photo. He's the administrator at Shady Pines. What's he doing meeting with Woodrow? That's what I wanted to know too, so I did some digging. Turns out Mr. Dunn is very friendly with your son. They play golf together, and according to what I overheard using a listening device, they have a deal. What kind of deal? Esther pulled out a recording device and played an audio file. Woodrow's voice filled my kitchen. So we're agreed. Once we get her back in there, you make sure she's comfortable, medicated, not able to cause trouble. Clarence Dunn's voice responded. For $10,000, I'll make sure your mother is so sedated she won't remember her own name. She'll be no trouble to anyone. I felt sick. They're planning to put me back in the nursing home. How? The judge ruled I'm competent. They can't just. They can if they manufacture a crisis, Esther interrupted. And that's exactly what they're planning. She showed me more photos. This man is Dr. Rufus Chambers. He's a doctor who's willing to falsify medical records for money. Woodrow is paying him to create documentation that you've had a stroke or a heart attack, something that would require immediate hospitalization and long-term care. But I haven't had a stroke. I know, but if Dr. Chambers creates fake medical records, if he calls 911 and reports that you collapsed, if he has you transported to the hospital and admitted under his care, he can claim you're no longer competent to refuse treatment. He can have you transferred to Shady Pines. And once you're there, with Clarence Dunn keeping you heavily medicated, you won't be able to fight back. I couldn't breathe. This was even worse than before. They weren't just trying to steal my money, they were planning to drug me into submission. There's more, Esther said grimly. I also found out they're still trying to sell your house. They've contacted a real estate investor who buys properties in questionable circumstances. If they can get you locked up in the nursing home and claim you need long-term care, they can petition the court for permission to sell your house to pay for that care. But the judge already ruled in my favor. They're planning to go to a different judge, one they think they can manipulate. They're also planning to claim you've deteriorated mentally since the last hearing, that you're having paranoid delusions, seeing things that aren't there, making wild accusations. I'm not paranoid. Everything I'm saying is true. I know, and we can prove it. I have all this documented, photos, recordings, paper trails showing the payments to Dr. Chambers and Clarence Dunn. But Odessa, we need to act fast. According to what I heard, they're planning to make their move this week. My hands were shaking. What should I do? We go on the offense. We expose their plan before they can execute it. We go to the police, to the district attorney, to Judge Grant. We show them everything and ask for protection. We spent the rest of the day preparing. Esther helped me organize all the evidence. We made copies of everything: photos, recordings, financial records showing the payments to Dr. Chambers and Clarence Dunn. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. I kept thinking Woodrow might break into the house, or Dr. Chambers might show up pretending to be concerned about my health. The next morning, Lucille came to my house with good news. I got you an emergency hearing with Judge Grant. This afternoon at 2 p.m., we're going to present all of Esther's evidence and ask for a restraining order against Woodrow, Inez, Dr. Chambers, and Clarence Dunn. We're also asking for criminal charges. Will it work? With this much evidence, absolutely. These people are going to jail Odessa. But before we could get to court, something happened that changed everything. At 11 a.m., there was a knock on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw a police officer standing there. I opened the door cautiously. Can I help you, officer? Are you Odessa Franklin? Yes. Ma'am, I need you to come with me. There's been a complaint filed against you." "A complaint? What kind of complaint?" "A concerned citizen reported that you've been making threats against your family members. Death threats, specifically. We need to take you in for questioning." My heart started pounding. "That's a lie. I never threatened anyone." "Ma'am, please come with me. You can explain everything at the station." I called Lucille immediately. She told me to cooperate, but not to answer any questions without her present. At the police station, I discovered who had filed the complaint, Inez. She told the police that I'd called her the night before and threatened to kill both her and Woodrow. That I'd said I had a gun and was planning to make them pay for what they did to me. It was completely false. I'd never said anything like that. But it was a clever move on their part, make me look unstable, dangerous, paranoid. Set the stage for claiming I was mentally incompetent. Lucille arrived at the station within 30 minutes. "Don't say anything," she instructed. "This is a setup." The detective interviewing me was a middle-aged white man named Detective Chester Riley. He seemed sympathetic at first. "Mrs. Franklin, I understand you've been having some conflicts with your family. That can be very stressful, but making threats is a serious matter." "I didn't make any threats," I said calmly. "Check my phone records. I didn't call Inez last night. I didn't call anyone." "Mrs. Inez Franklin says you called from a blocked number." "Then let's see her phone records. If I really called her, there will be a record of it." Detective Riley looked uncomfortable. "Well, she says she deleted the call because it upset her so much." "How convenient," Lucille said dryly. "Detective, my client didn't make any threats. This is a false accusation designed to make her look unstable. It's part of a larger scheme to have her declared incompetent and steal her assets." "That's a serious accusation, counselor." "And I can prove it." Lucille pulled out copies of Esther's evidence. "This is documentation of a conspiracy between Mrs. Franklin's son, his wife, a doctor, and a nursing home administrator. They're planning to falsify medical records, have Mrs. Franklin involuntarily committed, and steal her house. The threat complaint is just another step in that plan." Detective Riley looked through the documents, his expression growing more serious. "If this is true, we're talking about multiple felonies." "It is true, every bit of it. And we have an emergency hearing this afternoon to address it. But in the meantime, my client is being harassed with false accusations." After reviewing the evidence for an hour, Detective Riley released me without charges. "Mrs. Franklin, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Based on what I'm seeing here, it does appear you're the victim, not the perpetrator. I'll be making a report about this, and I'll be forwarding it to the district attorney's office." "Thank you, Detective." But as we left the police station, Lucille looked worried. "Odessa, this is escalating fast. They're getting desperate. Desperate people do desperate things." "I know. That's why I need to move faster. I need to stop them before they can hurt me." "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking it's time I stopped playing defense and started playing offense. I'm thinking it's time I showed Woodrow and Inez exactly who they're messing with." That afternoon's emergency hearing went exactly as Lucille had predicted. Judge Grant was furious when she saw Esther's evidence. "This is outrageous," she said, looking at the photos and listening to the recordings. "These people are planning to kidnap and drug Mrs. Franklin, to falsify medical records." "Yes, Your Honor," Lucille confirmed, "and to steal her house while she's incapacitated." Judge Grant immediately issued restraining orders against Woodrow, Inez, Dr. Chambers, and Clarence Dunn. None of these people are to come within 500 feet of Mrs. Franklin. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. She also ordered the district attorney to open a criminal investigation. "I want these people prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law." As we left the courthouse, I should have felt victorious. But I didn't, because I knew restraining orders were just pieces of paper. They wouldn't stop Woodrow and Inez if they were truly desperate. That night, I sat in my living room thinking about everything that had happened, about how my own son, my baby boy, had turned into someone I didn't recognize, someone who would drug me, steal from me, lie about me. Where had I gone wrong? How had I raised a son who could treat me this way? My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Mrs. Franklin, this is Winifred Thomas. I'm a social worker with Adult Protective Services. We received a report that you're living alone and may not be safe. I need to come to a home visit to assess your situation. My blood ran cold. Who filed this report? I can't disclose that information, but I need to come see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I'm perfectly fine. I don't need your services. Ma'am, when we receive a report, we're legally required to investigate. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. She hung up. I immediately called Lucille. They're not stopping. Now they've called Adult Protective Services on me. Of course they did. It's another way to build a case that you can't live independently. But don't worry. When the social worker comes, I'll be there too. We'll show her all the evidence of what Woodrow and Inez are really doing. Turn their own tactic against them. The next morning, Winifred Thomas arrived exactly at 9 a.m. She was a tired-looking woman in her 40s carrying a clipboard. Mrs. Franklin, I need to ask you some questions about your living situation. Lucille was already there. Before you ask any questions, Ms. Thomas needs to see this. She handed over a folder with all our evidence, the court rulings, the restraining orders, Esther's documentation of the conspiracy. Winifred read through everything, her eyes getting wider. So the people who filed this report are the same people who tried to have Mrs. Franklin illegally committed to a nursing home. Exactly, Lucille said. This is harassment, and you're being used as a tool in that harassment. Winifred looked upset. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Franklin. I had no idea. I'm closing this case immediately and flagging it as a false report, and I'll be reporting this abuse of the system to my supervisor. After she left, I thought the attacks would stop, but I was wrong. That afternoon, the city building inspector showed up. Ma'am, we received a complaint that your house has serious code violations and may be unsafe. I need to do an inspection. It was the same man from Esther's photos, the one Woodrow had been meeting with. Go ahead and inspect, I said calmly. But know that I have documentation showing my son paid you to find violations whether they exist or not. So if you file a false report, you'll be committing a crime. The inspector's face went pale. He did a quick walkthrough, found nothing wrong because there was nothing wrong, and left quickly. But the harassment didn't stop there. Over the next 3 days, I got a visit from the fire marshal claiming someone reported I was hoarding. A visit from the health department claiming someone reported I had rats. A call from my insurance company saying someone had filed a claim about damage to my house. All false. All attempts to build a case that I couldn't maintain my property. I documented everything, every false report, every harassment, every lie. And I started planning my revenge. Because I realized something. Woodrow and Inez weren't going to stop. They would keep attacking me, keep trying to find ways to take my house and my money, keep making my life miserable. So I needed to do more than just defend myself. I needed to destroy them completely, make it impossible for them to ever threaten me again. And I knew exactly how to do it. I called Esther Monroe. I need you to dig deeper. I need everything on Woodrow and Inez. Their finances, their jobs, their secrets, everything. What are you planning, Odessa? I'm planning to make sure they never mess with me again. Can you do it? Give me 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, Esther came to my house with another folder, but this one was even thicker than before. Odessa, you were right to have me dig deeper. Your son and daughter-in-law have been living a lie, and when this comes out, it's going to destroy them. She showed me what she'd found. Woodrow had been embezzling from his company for 3 years. Over $400,000 hidden in accounts Inez didn't even know about. Inez had been having an affair with her boss for 2 years. She'd been using my money they'd stolen from me, to pay for hotel rooms and gifts for her lover. They were both deeply in debt, credit cards maxed out, loans they couldn't pay. That's why they needed my money so desperately. And most shocking of all, Woodrow had another family. A woman in another city he'd been secretly married to for 5 years, with 2 children I'd never met, my grandchildren. I stared at the evidence, unable to believe what I was reading. My son was a bigamist, an embezzler, a liar on a level I couldn't have imagined. "What do you want to do with this information?" Esther asked. I thought about it for a long moment. Then I smiled. "I want to use it to take everything from them, just like they tried to take everything from me." Over the next week, I put my plan into motion. I sent the evidence of Woodrow's embezzlement to his company's board of directors. He was fired within 24 hours and criminally charged within 48. I sent the evidence of Inez's affair to her husband, her real husband, Woodrow, along with evidence of the money she'd spent on her lover. Their marriage imploded. I sent information about Woodrow's secret second family to his first wife, the woman in the other city. She filed for bigamy charges. And I sent all of it, all the evidence of their crimes and lies, to the district attorney prosecuting their elder abuse case. Within 2 weeks, Woodrow and Inez's entire lives fell apart. Woodrow was facing criminal charges for embezzlement and bigamy. Inez was facing charges for conspiracy and theft. Their assets were frozen. Their reputations were destroyed. And I made sure everyone knew why this had happened, because they'd tried to destroy an innocent, elderly woman for money. But just when I thought it was over, just when I thought I'd won, I got a phone call that changed everything. It was Woodrow, and his voice was different, desperate, broken. "Mama, please, you have to help me. They're going to send me to prison for 20 years. Please, Mama, I'm your son. You can't let this happen." Oh my God, Woodrow is begging now. If your jaw just dropped, smash that like button and subscribe. Turn on all notifications bell and comment below. Where are you watching from? And should Odessa help her son or let him face the consequences? We're reading every comment. This story is getting wild. I stood in my kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, listening to my son cry. Really cry. Not fake tears or manipulation. Real, desperate sobbing. "Mama, please," Woodrow begged. "I know I was wrong, I know I hurt you, but I'm your son, your only child. You can't just let me go to prison for 20 years. Please, Mama, please help me." My hand was shaking. Part of me wanted to hang up. He'd tried to steal from me, lock me away, drug me. He deserved everything that was happening to him. But another part of me, the mother part, remembered holding him as a baby, teaching him to ride a bike, nursing him through childhood illnesses, celebrating his graduation, walking him down the aisle at his wedding. "Woodrow," I said quietly, "why should I help you, after everything you did to me?" "Because I'm sorry, I'm really, truly sorry. I was desperate and stupid and I made terrible choices. But Mama, prison will destroy me. I'll lose everything. My career, my freedom, any chance at a normal life. You should have thought about that before you tried to destroy mine." "I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. But please, you have to help me. You're the only one who can." How can I possibly help you now?" "The district attorney said if you don't want to press charges, if you say you forgive me and want the family to handle this privately, they might drop some of the charges. You're the victim, Mama. Your voice matters." I closed my eyes. He was asking me to save him, to show mercy he'd never shown me. "I need to think about it," I said. "Mama." I said I need to think about it. "Give me time, Woodrow. This isn't a small thing you're asking." I hung up before he could say more. For the next 3 days, I agonized over what to do. I talked to Lucille, to Esther, to my friends at church, to Myrtle next door. Everyone had different advice. Lucille said, "Let him face the consequences. He's an adult who made adult choices. You don't owe him anything." Esther said, "He's shown no real remorse until now, and now he only cares because he's facing prison. That's not genuine change." Myrtle said, "He's your son. Blood is blood. You'll regret it if you don't at least try to help him." My pastor, Reverend Leroy Johnson, said, "Forgiveness doesn't mean erasing consequences. You can forgive him in your heart while still letting justice take its course." But the person whose advice surprised me most was Winifred Thomas, the social worker who'd come to investigate me. She called me out of the blue. "Mrs. Franklin, I hope you don't mind me reaching out, but I wanted to tell you something. I've worked in elder abuse cases for 20 years, and I've seen families like yours before, adult children who exploit their elderly parents. What I've learned is this: people like your son rarely change. They apologize when they're caught, but if given another chance, they do it again. Whatever you decide, protect yourself first." That night I prayed. I prayed for guidance, for wisdom, for the strength to make the right choice. And the next morning, I made my decision. I called Woodrow. "I'll meet with you, once, to hear what you have to say, but I'm not promising anything." "Thank you, Mama. Thank you so much." We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory with plenty of witnesses. Lucille came with me. I wasn't taking any chances. Woodrow looked terrible. He'd lost weight. His clothes were rumpled. His eyes were red from crying or lack of sleep or both. "Mama," he said as soon as I sat down, "I'm so sorry for everything." "Talk is cheap, Woodrow. Show me you're sorry." "How? Tell me how and I'll do it." I pulled out a folder. I seemed to be carrying a lot of folders these days, and slid it across the table. "This is a contract. If you want my help, you'll sign it. Here's what it says. You will repay every penny you stole from me, all $200,000 with interest. You'll pay me $2,000 a month until it's paid off. You'll never ask me for money again. You'll never contact me unless I contact you first. You'll go to therapy to deal with whatever issues made you think it was okay to abuse your own mother. And you'll write a full confession of everything you did, which I'll keep. If you ever try to hurt me again, I'll use that confession to make sure you go to prison for the maximum sentence." Woodrow stared at the contract. This is harsh, Mama. You tried to lock me in a nursing home and drug me into a vegetable. You stole my money. You tried to sell my house. You filed false reports against me. And you want to talk to me about harsh. You're right, I'm sorry, I'll sign it." He signed every page without reading the details. Lucille witnessed and notarized it. "Now what?" Woodrow asked. "Will you talk to the DA?" "I'll think about it. But Woodrow, understand this. Even if I do help you, we're not going back to how things were. You betrayed my trust in the worst possible way. That trust can never be fully repaired." "I understand." "And one more thing. Where's Inez? Why isn't she here begging for forgiveness too?" Woodrow's face darkened. "Inez left me. The moment the criminal charges were filed, she filed for divorce. Said she wasn't going to ruin her life for mine. She's already moved in with her lover." Despite everything, I felt a small flash of satisfaction. Karma was real. I did eventually speak to the district attorney. I told her I wanted Woodrow to face consequences, but I didn't want him to spend 20 years in prison. We worked out a plea deal. Woodrow would plead guilty to fraud and elder abuse. He'd get 5 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 3 if he showed good behavior and paid back what he owed me. It wasn't perfect, but it was justice tempered with mercy. Inez, however, got no such mercy from me. I pushed for her to be prosecuted fully. She ended up with 7 years because she'd been the mastermind behind much of the scheme. Dr. Rufus Chambers and Clarence Dunn were also prosecuted. Dr. Chambers lost his medical license and got 4 years in prison. Clarence Dunn lost his job and got 2 years plus a massive fine. The day Woodrow was sentenced, he looked at me from the defendant's table with tears in his eyes. "Thank you, Mama, for not giving up on me completely." I didn't respond. I just watched as they led him away. 3 months after the sentencing, I finally felt like I could breathe again. The house was mine, secured in a trust that protected it from any future schemes. My money was safe. The people who'd tried to hurt me were all in prison or facing consequences. But I was lonely. My relationship with Woodrow was shattered. I had no other family. And at 71, I wasn't sure how to rebuild a life from scratch. Then one day, I got a visitor I wasn't expecting. A young woman, maybe 25, knocked on my door. She was black, beautiful, with Woodrow's eyes. "Mrs. Franklin, my name is Oralia. I'm your granddaughter." I stared at her, shocked. Woodrow's daughter, from his second family. Yes, ma'am, I know this is probably strange, but I wanted to meet you. My mother told me what my father did to you, and I'm so sorry. But I also wanted you to know that you have family who care about you. Me, my younger brother Silas, and our mom. We didn't know about you until recently, but now that we do, we'd like to get to know you, if you want. I didn't know what to say. I'd been so angry at Woodrow for hiding this second family. But looking at Oralia, at my granddaughter, I felt something shift in my heart. Come in, I said. Let's talk. Over coffee, Oralia told me her story. Her mother, Esmeralda, had married Woodrow believing he was single. By the time she found out the truth, she was pregnant with Oralia. Woodrow had begged her not to leave, promising he'd divorce Inez, but he never did. My mom stayed because she loved him, Oralia said, but she always felt like the other woman. When everything came out in court, when she realized what Dad had done to you, she was horrified. She left him immediately. Where is she now? She lives about an hour from here. She'd like to meet you too, if you're willing. She wants to apologize for being part of hurting you, even unknowingly. Over the next few weeks, I got to know Oralia, her brother Silas, and their mother Esmeralda. They were good people, kind, honest, nothing like Woodrow. And slowly, I started to feel less alone. But just when I thought my life was finally settling into peace, something happened that proved the nightmare wasn't quite over. I was at home one evening when I heard breaking glass. Someone had thrown a brick through my front window. I called 911 immediately. The police came and found a note attached to the brick. You destroyed my life, old woman. Now I'm going to destroy yours. This is just the beginning. Inez. But Inez was supposed to be in prison. How could she have thrown a brick through my window? Detective Chester Riley came to investigate. Mrs. Franklin, I need to tell you something. Inez Franklin was released from prison yesterday. What? How? She was sentenced to 7 years. Her lawyer found a technicality, a procedural error in her trial. The judge had no choice but to order a new trial, and in the meantime, Inez was released on bail. So she's out there, free. I'm afraid so, and based on this note, she's coming after you. My blood ran cold. After everything, after all the court cases, the restraining orders, the prison sentences, Inez was free and planning revenge. We're going to increase patrols around your house, Detective Riley said. And I strongly suggest you consider staying somewhere else for a while, with friends or family. But I was tired of running, tired of being afraid, tired of letting other people control my life. No, I said firmly. This is my house. I fought too hard to get it back. I'm not leaving. Mrs. Franklin. I'm not leaving, I repeated, but I'm going to make sure I'm protected. I called Esther Monroe. I need security. Cameras, alarms, everything. Can you set it up? I'll have a team there tomorrow morning. I also called Lucille. Inez is out. She's threatening me. What can we do legally? I'll file for an emergency restraining order first thing tomorrow. And I'll notify the DA that Inez is violating the conditions of her bail by threatening you. She could go right back to jail. But that night, alone in my house with a broken window, I realized something. Legal protection wasn't enough. Inez was desperate and angry. And desperate, angry people did desperate, angry things. I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. I kept my phone next to me, ready to call 911. At 3 a.m., I heard something outside. Footsteps on my porch, someone trying my front door. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. Someone's trying to break into my house. Officers are on the way, ma'am. Stay on the line. The person outside tried the door again, then a window. Then I heard them walking around to the back of the house. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it would explode. Then I heard breaking glass from the kitchen. They were inside. I locked my bedroom door and pushed my dresser in front of it. The same thing I'd done when Woodrow's hired killer attacked Mavis in our last story. Wait, no, that was a different person. I pushed those thoughts away and focused on survival. Footsteps on the stairs, coming closer. Police are 2 minutes away, the 911 operator said. Stay quiet, stay hidden. The footsteps stopped outside my bedroom door. Then the handle turned. I know you're in there, Odessa, Inez's voice said. Cold, calm, terrifying. You ruined my life, you destroyed my marriage, you sent me to prison, and now I'm going to make you pay. She started slamming against the door. The wood cracked. I heard sirens in the distance, getting closer. The police are coming, I shouted. You need to leave. I don't care about the police, Inez said. I don't care about anything anymore. You took everything from me, so I'm taking everything from you. The door splintered. One more hit and she'd be through. Then I heard, police freeze. Officers rushing up the stairs, shouting, sounds of a struggle. Get on the ground, now. More shouting, then silence. Finally, a knock on my door. Mrs. Franklin, it's Detective Riley, it's safe, you can come out. I moved the dresser and opened the door with shaking hands. Inez was on the floor in handcuffs, screaming obscenities at me. Her face was twisted with rage and hatred. You'll never be safe, she screamed as they dragged her away. Never, even from prison, I'll find a way to get to you. You destroyed my life and I'll destroy yours. After they took her away, I sat on my bed and finally broke down. I'd been so strong for so long, escaping the nursing home, fighting in court, standing up to everyone who tried to hurt me. But in that moment, I just cried. Because I was exhausted. Because I was scared. Because even with Inez back in custody, I knew her words might be true. How could I ever feel safe again? Detective Riley sat with me until I calmed down. Mrs. Franklin, this time she's not getting out. Breaking and entering while on bail, violating a restraining order, threatening violence. The judge is going to revoke her bail and she'll stay in jail until her new trial. And with these new charges, she's looking at 20 years minimum. Will that be enough to stop her? I'll be honest with you, people like Inez, who feel they've been wronged, sometimes they don't stop. Even from prison, they can cause problems. But we'll do everything we can to protect you. After he left, I called Oralia, my granddaughter, the family I'd just found. Grandma Odessa, what's wrong? It's 4 a.m. I told her everything. And when I was done, she said something that made me cry all over again. Pack a bag. You're coming to stay with me and Mom until this is over. You're not going to be alone anymore. For the first time in months, I didn't argue. I didn't insist on being independent and strong. I just said, thank you, I'll be ready in an hour. Because I'd learned something important through all of this. Being strong doesn't mean facing everything alone. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is accept help from people who love you. But as I packed my bag, preparing to leave my house again, this time by choice, my phone rang one more time. It was a number from the state prison, Woodrow. Mama, I heard what happened. Inez is insane. But Mama, there's something I need to tell you. Something about Inez that you don't know. Something that's going to change everything. What? Woodrow has more secrets about Inez? If you're screaming right now, hit that like button and subscribe. Turn on notifications, bell, and comment. Where are you watching from? And what do you think Woodrow knows? I sat on my bed, phone pressed to my ear, listening to my son calling from prison. Mama, are you there? Woodrow's voice was urgent. I need to tell you this before it's too late. I'm here. What is it? Inez isn't working alone. She has a partner, someone who's been helping her all along, someone you trust. My stomach dropped. Who? Dr. Rufus Chambers, the doctor who was supposed to falsify your medical records. He's not really in prison, Mama. He made a deal. He's testifying against other people in exchange for house arrest, and he's still working with Inez. They've been planning something big. What kind of something? I don't know all the details, but Mama, I overheard something from another inmate whose cellmate is connected to Chambers. They're planning to make you disappear, permanently, and make it look like natural causes or an accident. I felt cold all over. How do you know this is true? Because the inmate's cellmate is Clarence Dunn, the nursing home administrator. He's been coordinating between Inez and Dr. Chambers from inside prison. Mama, they're serious. You need to get somewhere safe, and you need to tell the police everything. Why are you telling me this now? Why help me? There was a long pause. Then Woodrow said something I never expected to hear. Because for the first time in years, I'm thinking clearly. Being in here, away from Inez's influence, away from the greed and the scheming, I realize what I became, what I did to you. And I can't live with myself if something happens to you. You're my mother. I should have been protecting you, not hurting you. So please, Mama, please be careful. After we hung up, I immediately called Detective Riley and told him everything. We'll look into it, he said. But Mrs. Franklin, you need to leave your house. Now, don't pack, don't wait. Just go to your granddaughter's place like you planned. I'm already packed. I'm leaving in 5 minutes. But as I hung up, I realized something. I was tired of running, tired of reacting to other people's threats, tired of being the victim. It was time to end this, once and for all. I called Esther Monroe. I need your help with something risky. What are you thinking? I'm thinking we set a trap. We let Inez and Dr. Chambers think they have an opportunity to get to me. And when they take it, we'll have the police waiting. Odessa, that's dangerous, very dangerous. I know, but I'm done living in fear. I'm 71 years old. I've escaped a nursing home, fought off my own family, survived multiple attacks. I'm not going to spend what's left of my life hiding. I'm going to end this threat permanently. Esther was quiet for a moment. Then, okay, I'm in, but we do this smart, with lots of backup. Over the next 2 days, we planned carefully. Esther would spread word through her contacts that I'd returned home from my granddaughter's house, that I was alone, vulnerable, scared, that my security system had been disabled for repairs. All lies, of course. The security system was upgraded, not disabled. And I wouldn't be alone. I'd have undercover police officers in the house with me, plus SWAT team members stationed nearby. Detective Riley was against the plan at first. This is using you as bait, Mrs. Franklin, if something goes wrong. Then something goes wrong. But detective, these people won't stop. Inez has tried 3 times now to hurt me. Dr. Chambers is coordinating from house arrest. Even from prison, they're planning. The only way to stop them is to catch them in the act. Finally, he agreed. But we do this my way, full protection, multiple backup teams, and the moment things get dangerous, we pull you out. On the night of the operation, I sat in my living room wearing a wire, pretending to watch TV. 2 undercover officers, one in the kitchen, one upstairs, waited silently. Outside, unmarked police cars filled the neighborhood. SWAT team members were positioned in strategic locations. Esther was in a van down the street with Detective Riley, monitoring everything. At 10 p.m., the motion sensors picked up movement in my backyard. We have activity, one officer whispered into his radio. 2 subjects approaching from the rear. My heart started pounding, but I stayed seated on the couch, pretending to be oblivious. I heard the back door being opened. Someone had picked the lock. Footsteps in my kitchen. Through my peripheral vision, I saw Dr. Chambers enter the living room. He was wearing all black, carrying a medical bag. Behind him was someone else. Not Inez, she was still in jail. Someone I didn't recognize. Mrs. Franklin, Dr. Chambers said with a cold smile. Don't be alarmed, I'm here to help you. Help me, I kept my voice shaky, scared playing the role. How did you get in my house? That doesn't matter. What matters is that you've been under a lot of stress. Your heart, Mrs. Franklin, it's been struggling. And tonight, I'm afraid it's going to give out. He pulled a syringe from his medical bag. This won't hurt. You'll just go to sleep. And when they find you tomorrow, it will look like you died peacefully in your sleep. Natural causes. No one will suspect a thing. Who's paying you to kill me? I asked, stalling for time. Does it matter? Let's just say there are people who will benefit from your death, people who have been very patient. The other person, a large man who was clearly hired muscle, moved toward me. That's when I said the code word. I think my heart is fine, actually. Immediately, the undercover officers burst from their hiding spots. Police, freeze, drop the syringe. Dr. Chambers spun around, shocked. The hired muscle tried to run, but was tackled by an officer. Within seconds, both men were on the ground in handcuffs. SWAT team members poured into the house, securing every room. Detective Riley came in, looking relieved. "Mrs. Franklin, are you okay?" "I'm fine, better than fine. We got them." Dr. Chambers was screaming. "This is a setup, entrapment. You can't do this." "Actually, we can," Detective Riley said calmly. "You broke into Mrs. Franklin's house with intent to commit murder. We have it all on video and audio. You're going to prison for a very, very long time." "I want my lawyer." "You'll get one, but first you're going to tell us who hired you. Was it Inez Franklin?" Dr. Chambers pressed his lips together, refusing to talk. But the hired muscle, a man named Leroy Barnes, was more cooperative. Within an hour, he'd made a deal and told them everything. Inez had indeed orchestrated the plot from jail. She'd convinced Dr. Chambers to do it by promising him half of my estate after I died, money she thought she'd get as Woodrow's wife. She'd recruited Leroy through Clarence Dunn's prison connections. The plan was to make my death look natural, so there'd be no investigation. Then Inez would claim that as Woodrow's wife, they were still legally married despite her affair. She had rights to his potential inheritance from me. It was convoluted, desperate, and doomed to fail, but she'd tried anyway. The next day, I went to the prosecutor's office to give my statement. While I was there, I asked to see Inez. One last time. They brought her to a visiting room in shackles. Her expensive silk pajamas were long gone. Now she wore an orange prison jumpsuit. Her hair was messy. Her face was gaunt. Prison was not being kind to her. When she saw me, pure hatred flashed in her eyes. "Come to gloat," she spat. "No, I came to understand. Why, Inez? Why did you hate me so much? What did I ever do to you?" She laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. "What did you do? You existed. You had everything I wanted. A house, savings, stability. And you were just sitting on it all, hoarding it, while Woodrow and I were struggling." "You weren't struggling. Woodrow had a good job. You had a good job. You were living beyond your means, but that's not the same as struggling. You don't understand. We deserved to live well. We deserved nice things. And you had so much money just sitting there doing nothing. It was MY money. I earned it. I saved it. It wasn't yours to take. You're old. You were going to die soon anyway. What did you need all that money for?" And there it was, the ugly truth. In Inez's mind, because I was elderly, my life had less value. My money should go to younger people who could use it better. "I'm 71, Inez, not dead. I have years left to live, and I deserve to live them on my terms with my money in my house. You had no right to any of it." "I'll get out someday," Inez hissed, "and when I do." "When you do, you'll be an old woman yourself. Maybe then you'll understand how it feels to be dismissed and devalued just because of your age." I stood to leave, but before I walked out, I had one more thing to say. "By the way, Inez, I've rewritten my will. When I die, and yes, someday I will die, everything I own goes to my granddaughter Oralia and her family. People who actually care about me, not people who saw me as an obstacle or an ATM machine. You destroyed your relationship with me for money you were never going to get. I hope it was worth it." The look on her face, the realization that she'd sacrificed everything for nothing, was the last memory I wanted of her. I walked out and never looked back. 6 months later, all the legal battles were finally over. Dr. Rufus Chambers got 20 years for attempted murder and conspiracy. Leroy Barnes got 10 years for his part in the plot. Clarence Dunn got an additional 5 years, added to his sentence, for coordinating criminal activity from prison. Inez got 30 years. With her previous charges plus the new ones, she wouldn't be eligible for parole until she was 75 years old. Woodrow served his time quietly, participating in every rehabilitation program the prison offered. He wrote me letters, not asking for anything, just apologizing and sharing his progress. I read them but rarely responded. The wounds he'd caused were too deep to heal quickly. As for me, I settled into a new life. I sold the big house, the one with too many bad memories, and bought a smaller, cozier home right next to Oralia and Esmeralda. I got to know my grandchildren, Oralia and Silas, and discovered the joy of family I'd been missing. Real family. People who loved me for who I was, not what I had. Oralia was studying to be a lawyer, inspired by everything she'd seen me go through. "Grandma, you showed me that you're never too old to fight for yourself. I want to help other people do the same." Silas was in medical school, planning to specialize in geriatric care. "Because of what happened to you, Grandma, I want to make sure elderly people get the respect and care they deserve." Esmeralda became like a daughter to me, the daughter I'd never had. We cooked together, gardened together, went to church together. And slowly, month by month, I healed. 1 year after my escape from Shady Pines, Oralia organized a celebration. "Grandma, it's been exactly 1 year since you walked out of that nursing home and took your life back. We need to celebrate." She threw a party at my new house. Myrtle came, along with friends from church, Lucille and Esther, even Detective Riley and some of the officers who'd protected me. As we ate cake and laughed and told stories, I realized something. I'd won. Not just the legal battles, but the war for my dignity, my independence, my right to live life on my own terms. Woodrow and Inez had tried to break me, to steal from me, to erase me. Instead, I'd escaped with a plan they'd never forget. I'd exposed their crimes. I'd sent them to prison. I'd reclaimed everything they'd stolen. And most importantly, I'd discovered that my value wasn't in my money or my house. It was in my strength, my resilience, and the love of people who truly cared about me. Later that evening, as the party wound down, Oralia sat beside me on my porch. "Grandma, can I ask you something?" "Of course, baby." "Do you ever regret fighting back? Would it have been easier to just give up?" I thought about it, about the nursing home, about the court battles, about the fear and danger and heartbreak. "No," I said firmly. "Fighting back was the best decision I ever made, because the alternative was spending my final years locked away, drugged, and forgotten. This way, I got to live, really live, on my terms, with people I love." "You're my hero, Grandma." "I'm not a hero, sweetheart. I'm just an old woman who refused to go quietly." But as I said those words, I realized they weren't quite true. Maybe I was a hero, not the cape-wearing, superhero kind, but a real-life hero who'd fought against injustice and won. A hero who'd proven that age is just a number. That 71-year-old grandmothers can escape nursing homes, outsmart criminals, defeat schemes, and reclaim their lives. A hero who'd shown the world, and shown herself, that you're never too old to fight for what's right. My son and his wife had put me in a nursing home, thinking I'd die there quietly and leave them everything. Instead, I'd escaped with a plan they'd never forget, a plan that sent them to prison, exposed their crimes, and gave me a second chance at life. And that, I thought as I watched the sunset with my granddaughter beside me, was the sweetest victory of all. Wow, what an incredible journey Odessa took us on. If this story inspired you, moved you, or made you believe in the power of fighting back no matter your age, we need you to do these things right now. Smash that like button. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful grandmother stories every week. Turn on all notifications bell so you never miss our next incredible story. Comment below and tell us, where are you watching from? What did you think of Odessa's story? Was she a hero? Should she have forgiven Woodrow more, or was she right to keep her distance? Have you or someone you know experienced elder abuse? Share this video with elderly family members who need to know their rights. Anyone who's ever been underestimated because of their age. People who need inspiration to fight back against injustice. Thank you to our viewers from around the world. From the USA, United Kingdom, Canada, South Africa, Kenya, Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, Australia, and everywhere else. We see you, we appreciate you, and we love you. Remember Odessa's lesson. You're never too old to fight for what's right. Never too old to reclaim your life. Never too old to show the world what you're made of. Stay strong, stay blessed, and never let anyone tell you you're too old for anything.